So, have you been thinking about getting into road cycling? So road cycling is a really great sport. No matter how old you are, no matter what your fitness levels are, you can get out there and you can enjoy it. So whether you cycle for pleasure, you can cycle for performance, whatever your goals are. My name's Emma, I'm a professional triathlete, and today I'm here to give you some tips and tricks to get started with road cycling. So first things first, you're going to need a bike. Otherwise, it's going to be a little tough. Now, when you're choosing your first bike, there are lots and lots of options out there. One of the most important things is to be able to try the bike before you buy it, and also, from experience, that you actually like the bike. So if it's not a color that you particularly like, or it doesn't look nice to you, then you're going to have less pleasure riding it. So choose a bike that's adapted to your needs and that you like. So here are a few points to consider when you're choosing your new road bike. So one of the main things you're going to want to consider is the frame, material and geometry. So when it comes to materials, most bikes nowadays are made either of aluminium or of carbon. The frame material is going to have an impact on the weight of the bike, the handling and the performance. There are two main types of geometry on road bikes. Some are a little more aggressive, meaning they're lower at the front, so they put you in a more forward position. It's more aerodynamic. It might be a little less comfortable than frames that are more sort of endurance oriented, which are a little bit more upright, that sit you a little bit higher on the front, meaning there's less tension in your back, your shoulders and neck might be a bit more relaxed, and that might be easier on longer rides. So when it comes to choosing a bike, you will notice that you have two different brake options. So traditionally, road bikes had rim brakes, which is basically a caliper that comes and squeezes the rim when you brake and slows the bike down. Today, we're moving more and more towards disc brakes, which have been present in the mountain bike world for decades already. We're seeing them more on road bikes today, and that you have a disc rotor on the wheel, and again, there's a caliper that's on the fork, and when you brake, it squeezes the disc rotor to get you to stop. This type of brake is slightly more efficient in wet conditions, for example, but it doesn't mean that rim brakes don't work. It's just whatever brake system you choose on your new bike, just make sure that it's always in good condition. And if you have any doubt, just make sure it's checked out by a professional so you can stay safe on the road. The tires are perhaps not the first thing you're going to look at when you're buying a new bike. However, they are your contact point between the bike and the road, and they're going to have quite a big impact on the comfort of your ride. So traditionally, road bikes had skinny tires, so they're really quite narrow. And today, as with the disc brakes, we're moving more towards wider tires. This allows us to reduce the inflation pressure, so you've got just a little bit more comfort when you're riding, and it gives you a little bit more stability as well, because if you're choosing a tire which is, say, 28 or 30 millimeters wide, you're going to have just a little bit more grip on the road and a little bit more reassurance when you're going around curves, etc. And that, despite being wider, will not actually have an impact on your speed. In my personal opinion, finding the right saddle is one of the most important points when it comes to riding. So you may buy a bicycle, chances are that you will be changing the saddle quite quickly afterwards, simply because saddles come in all shapes and sizes. There are wider ones, narrower ones, there are ones that are cut out, some of them are flat, some of them are a little wavy with a little dip where you sit, and it's extremely personal. What fits you will certainly not fit somebody else, and finding the right saddle can be a bit of a challenge, but I can assure you, you will enjoy the ride so much more. So you've got the bike, you're excited to ride, but next you need kit. So a road cycling kit starts with a helmet. For your own safety on the roads, make sure you choose a certified model that fits your head. If you want, you can also wear a little cycling cap under your helmet. It's very stylish, it's quite popular in the world of cycling. You have a little brim that can protect you from the rain or soak up the sweat if it's hot. For the top half of your clothing, you're looking for a dedicated cycling jersey. Now again, these come in lots of different shapes and sizes. It doesn't have to be skin tight. It depends entirely on the discipline, what you're looking for exactly, your preference of colors. It can be bright, it can be a little bit more sober. In summer, when it's hot, you're looking for a short sleeve model which will evacuate sweat efficiently so that it keeps you nice and cool. And if you're riding in colder climates, depending on where you live, or maybe you're cycling in the winter, you probably want to consider a thermal base layer and a longer sleeved jersey over the top. So one of the most essential pieces of cycling clothing is the bib short, which is essentially a pair of shorts, often with straps that go over your shoulders to keep everything in place, and with a special insert that pads your seat and keeps you comfortable when you're out for long rides, etc. So as with a saddle, it is worth spending the time to find bib shorts that work for you and that keep you really comfortable, because it's very personal. So as with a cycling jersey, if you're cycling in warmer conditions, you're going to choose a short cycling bib, and if you're cycling in the winter or in colder climates, choose a full leg version, which is going to keep you nice and warm. So when it comes to choosing your shoes, you probably want to start off with a simple pair of trainers and flat pedals, so you can get a feel for how the bike handles, how it reacts, and just get a little bit more confident cycling. Once you're confident cycling, you can progress to a clipless system, which is essentially a cleat under the shoe that comes and slots into a pedal, and the shoe is attached to the pedal. And it gives you more control over the bike, it gives you better power transfer, and it's also safer because your foot basically doesn't risk slipping off the pedal and you losing control when you're riding. One last tip when you're choosing your cycling shoes is that you might like to size up just a little. That'll give your foot the space to expand if you're cycling in hot conditions, and if you're wearing them in the winter, you can wear a thicker pair of socks just to keep your feet warm. So when it comes to cycling accessories, one of the things you want to consider is a good pair of sunglasses. They will protect your eyes from UV light, sunlight, from insects, from dust, and will also stop your eyes drying out when you're out for long rides and causing discomfort. And finally, you might like to add a few accessories to your cycling wardrobe. It really helps if the conditions deteriorate, for example. Arm warmers to pull on if it gets a bit chilly, leg warmers to do the same. A gilet is a really, really useful piece of clothing which you can just put in a back pocket, and if you're at the top of a hill and it's a bit windy or you're worried about getting cold, you can just pull it on. I would recommend a good rain jacket as well if you live in an area where it rains a lot, or for emergency situations. And gloves, last but not least. Again, personal preference. Not everybody wears cycling gloves, but it can help protect your hands in case of an accident. Safety is absolutely paramount on the road. You're sharing the road with other users, and being seen is absolutely vital. So lighting on the front and the rear of your bike, and not only if you're riding in dark conditions, it really helps with visibility even during the day. I would also highly recommend clothing with reflective detailing. That always helps in headlights. And you're of course free to put a bell on your handlebars as well if you want to warn people that you're coming up behind them. So no matter how long you're planning to ride, always make sure you've got sufficient food in your pockets and hydration in your water bottles to see you through the day. Cycling is a physical effort, and you'd be surprised sometimes how quickly your energy levels drop. So just don't get caught out. As part of your cycling kit, a saddle bag is always really useful. It contains usually a spare inner tube, some tie levers, maybe a puncture repair kit. You can attach it out of the way under your saddle. Also take a mini pump with you, then you've got everything you need to repair a puncture on the side of the road if you need to. And if by any chance you aren't able to repair it or need any other kind of assistance, always make sure you have a mobile phone in your pocket to contact people in case of emergency and tell them where you're going. So there you have it. You have the bike, you have your equipment, you're ready to ride. All you need to do now is decide where you're going, who you're going with, and how far. So I would suggest not overstretching things on the very first try. Maybe go somewhere that isn't too stressful, away from traffic, no major hills. Use mobile applications. There are lots of them out there to help you plan. Maybe aim for a distance of 25, 30 kilometers, no more than an hour or two, and you're ready to go. So thanks for following. I hope all this advice was useful and that you're ready for your first ride. If you need any more tips and tricks, head over to the Decathlon Advice website or to our other YouTube videos and enjoy the ride.